So hopefully everything's working and the sound is correctly. Hopefully everything is fine. Okay, so I have some free time. I wanted to take a nap, but I can't. Because Wargaming just dropped the patch notes, or the pre-patch notes, the test patch notes, the rough draft of how they want to rebalance tier 10. I think around November, December. And it has gained quite a bit of attention, let's say. I think there's like some heated discussion in the discussion feedback. A lot of tournament players are talking about it right now. It's like the yearly tier 10 rebalance, and I wanted to talk about it because there are quite a few interesting changes and quite a few things to discuss. Um, so I'm going to be talking about it or discussing changes regarding tier 10 tanks in a tournament setting and also random matchmaking setting, pubs setting, if you want to call it like that. So I'm going to try to not be too rambly, but it's going to be a bit difficult for me because I'm not used to making that kind of content. I just usually play the game. But I really wanted to give my opinion because it seems quite important, and if some people are interested to discuss, then I'm open to discussion. I'd like to hear people's opinion. I've already heard quite a few different opinions, and they have quite a few things in common with what I'm thinking. But anyway, let's get into it. So Wargaming has posted a whole fucking bunch of changes, and they've explained the goals of the rebalance at the end of the changes, which surely most people won't read. As you see, like there's like a limited number of reactions compared to what people have reacted in the above messages. So they probably should have posted this first. So they want to change the established meta. Many things are currently not interesting enough, and there are quite a few right now in tier 10, or not fun to play. They want to change that up, obviously, as they do yearly. They make the good tanks a bit worse. Some of them usually even become quite awful, like the STB last year. And the ones that weren't very good or that weren't very popular, they get buffed. Sometimes tanks that are unpopular and still good but underplayed, they overbuff them, so people start playing them. So like WZ 113 GFT was quite an unpopular tank, and it was like decent, but nobody really played it because it was, I don't know, people didn't want to play the tank, and they overbuffed it, so it became quite cracked for a while, and they've nerfed it about last year, and that's an example of the tank they kind of messed around with, and yeah. So they think the super testers and contributors, whatever that means. So one of their goals was decreasing burst damage on some auto reloaders, and giving them something in return, because you don't want to like straight up nerf the tanks, right? And Wargaming has been looking out for us in the burst damage department, because they've been complaining, and players been complaining, rightfully so, that tanks with high alpha and auto reloaders have been quite strong, and when you, at least my experience is that when you start a random game, you see a bunch of auto reloaders, and it's, in my view, contributing to the fact that games are very quick and sometimes like over in less than 2 minutes or 2 minutes ish, and you don't really have the time to play the game because your team goes one side or splits up, the enemy team goes one side, they meet a couple of tanks, they empty their clips into them, and that's it. It's already like 3-0, and whatever, you can't do anything, the game's already lost. So I think probably touching autoloaders is a good thing. Like they needed to change them. Even though I kind of like my autoloaders, but fact is they're a problem for the matchmaking, especially in 7 versus 7. So they wanted to change the shell speed and shell types for many tanks. They want to give APCR shells a bit more love. That for me is the most controversial thing they want to do. I understand APCRs have been quite useless as a shell type, being mostly just strictly worse than AP, because you get less normalization. So if you haven't heard of it, you get so for example, if you're hitting a surface at a certain angle, your AP shells will normalize or diminish that angle effectively by, I think, roughly 6 degrees or 5 degrees, and APCRs is only 2 degrees. So effectively, when you're hitting at an angle, a surface at an angle with AP, you get a flatter angle that you would get with APCR, and thus AP is better to shoot at angled surfaces. So APCRs have been basically pretty much straight up worse, and it feels really bad to play with APCRs. For example, Błyskawica, however you call it. This tank only has APCRs, and it feels horrible to play with because a lot of the time it feels like your penetration is dog shit, and it feels like you don't go through tracks so easily. It's horrible to play with. And they wanted to fix equipment which made shooting too comfortable. So in their view, tanks, I guess, are too accurate, too comfortable. Not sure whatever that means, but yeah, cool. Yeah, honestly, I don't get how that can be too much of a bad thing. Some tanks are maybe a bit too accurate, but I don't get why you'd nerf it across the board, instead of just like rebalancing the tanks which need to be rebalanced accuracy-wise. And they wanted to make medium tanks and light tanks a bit more distinct in their view range. I think that's a pretty good thing because right now, light tanks are good at spotting, but they're not amazing, most of them, and the medium tanks can do like a pretty good job at spotting a lot of the time. So for a tournament setting, like you're playing a light tank for the speed and not really for the spotting ability, because like you can spot with a medium if you want to, and yeah. So I think we should address quickly, maybe in like a couple of minutes, let's talk about the state of tournaments. Tournaments have been since pretty much 2019, 2020. I think 2019, we had reactive armor introduced into the game, and it's been pretty much dominated by tanks which have reactive armor. Reactive armor is basically that consumables which allows you to take 27%, 29% less damage from shells. I think it's 27% damage less from shells, which are not HE or hash, for a short duration of time. And that is kind of fine for randoms, in the sense that usually in randoms you're going to use it and you're going to get shot once, twice, and you're the only one that uses it in a game, so it doesn't change really the outcome of the game that much, and it allows you to keep a bit more hit points. And it's a nice consumable in randoms because it's not like overly broken, but it's still useful in some tanks. But in tournaments, it's disgusting because you just take a bunch of tanks with reactive armor, and if you use it correctly, push correctly, your tanks are super tanky, and it allows you to have like really strong ability to push or to hold pushes, and effectively you can't play without reactive armor tanks. Or if there is a tank with reactive armor, it's, even if it's like kind of shit, it's worth it to play because it has reactive armor and it's able to have like that, I don't know, effective, I'd say maybe 10-15% more hit points on top of what it has if you use it correctly. And that compounds a lot on a bunch of tanks, and usually it just facilitates. It just makes one tank super meta compared to others, and the tanks with reactive armor are just like almost straight up better to play in tournaments compared to tanks without it. And so you'll see in the patch notes, they kind of either removed the reactive armor from tanks which had it and were kind of a problem. I'm thinking of the M4. I'm especially thinking of the F3 116, which is honestly such a gross tank. And I'm thinking of the E50M, which is also powerful, but at least it's not a pay-to-win gatekeep crappy design tank, which is just a dumb clipper with dumb armor that's kind of random, horrible gun, horrible armor to shoot at. It's just whatever. So, and Wargaming is aware that reactive armor is a problem, so I believe they're kind of removing it while they find a way to kind of fix it, whatever that may be. So that's really what they're trying to do in this patch, right? There are two really things which they're trying to address, and I think the community is not really happy about it. And that is the shell velocity regarding making APCR more useful, and the equipment which is making shooting too comfortable. So those are two things which they're really trying to address and are kind of not being real well received. Keep in mind this is like I think a rough draft still. So if the community complains enough, we might get to see some changes. The last time when they posted it, things were not sorry, the things were not set in stone. They changed it a little bit, but not that much. I hope that since there's like more time between now and the release, or what I think they will release this patch in, I think we can weigh in a bit more, hopefully. Also, a couple tanks have been rebalanced or reworked in really weird ways. Like, it's like, can't understand why they did that, and we'll go over them soon. So yeah, let's start with the equipment changes. They made the gun laying drive worse. Let's take, for example, whatever. Let's take a tank to go and check how it works. Okay, this is the gun laying drive. So gun laying drive is the equipment that allows you to aim faster. So your reticle becomes slower, faster, right? And they also, I think, rebalance supercharger and refined gun. So they made the gun laying drive worse, and they made refined gun worse. Okay. Refined gun needed to be nerfed because it was just straight up better than vertical stabs. You had no reason whatsoever of running stabs over refined gun. Enhanced gun laying drive, I think it depended on the tank whether you wanted to use supercharger or gun laying drive. Some tanks you kind of needed supercharger because the shell velocity was disgusting, and you needed, I think, in my personal opinion, it was more comfortable to play with supercharger than gun laying drive. Supercharger's getting nerfed a little bit, but it's not dramatic. And as you can see, most people are quite upset about these changes. I think the refined gun getting nerfed is quite a good thing, but the other ones, I honestly, I don't think they're good changes, but I don't think they're too impactful either. To be honest, it doesn't really matter that much. 5% isn't a big thing in a grand scheme of things. About medium tank's line, I don't have the tank, I don't own it. I think it's just a pubs tank. I think it's quite lackluster, about I mean, I've been told it's quite bad. Engine power buff, whatever, just slight engine power buff, armor turret improvement, whatever, yeah, cool. Shell speed, and that's where you notice a trend in this patch, is the shell speed is going to be fucking disgusting on a lot of tanks. And I think that's fine for heavy tanks, which are meant to be close range, at least most of them. But for medium tanks, which kind of need to play at range a lot of the time, having like 800 is so bad. So, what you're saying, you have to use like the supercharger now on like a lot of mediums because the shell speed is just too bad on the stand, like on just flat out, and you have to use supercharger, which is being nerfed, by the way. So you're getting, and this is like a small nerf, right? But some other mediums are going to get dunked on. They're having like a proper nerf, and so you're either going to choose to have less gun handling, like worse gun handling, and a slightly worse shell speed, or you're going to choose to have much worse gun handling, or at least noticeably worse gun handling, and I don't know. It's like the choice is horrible. Either you're gonna have shells that are a little bit slower, but your gun handling is horrible, or you're gonna get decent or okay gun handling, but your shell speed is atrocious. So that's like, in my opinion, quite a big nerf for a lot of mediums. And the view range is going to be nerfed to 255 on a lot of mediums also. I think that's pretty good. The 5 meters view range don't matter too much, and that gives more room for light tanks to shine. Project Murat, this tank is bad. They're buffing it. That's good. Alpha buff, between shell, intricate buff, power to rate ratio buff, reload time, slight nerf, but I think that's probably overall a buff regarding the alpha buff. The shell speed is getting, again, nerfed by 200 on the standards, by 400 on the gold, and like about 150 on the HEs. View range nerfed. Project Murat is a horrible tank for the reason that it's enormous, and the armor is pretty bad if you're not facing your opponent or hold down. And in Blitz, you don't really have a hold down meta like on World of Tanks PC, so a lot of the time you're just driving around, and being massive target with not very great camo, not a great damage output, which is getting buffed a little, but probably not enough, makes it quite a lackluster tank, to be honest. E50M, which is a big offender in tournaments and randoms. It was very good in tournaments until the 116 came out and became magically buffed before the season. I liked playing E50. I think it's a good tank to play, high skill cap, but also good for new players. It's an interesting tank which blurs the line between medium and heavy, and I think it was too good. It's good that it's getting nerfed. It's getting a engine power nerf, which is decent, I guess. So it won't be as nimble. Alpha damage buff, sure. Main shell type to AP, so that's an basically increase in the ability to pen armor. The shell speed is losing like 200, more than 200. So that's like, it's going to be horrible to now play at range with D50. You're going to need to be playing close range. The gold shell pen is being adjusted to compensate for the APCR to AP. The gold shell, the AP shell is being changed, the standard shell, and the gold is getting also nerfed. So it won't be as easy to play versus heavy tanks with D50M. Reload is getting a significant nerf, so the DPM won't be as high on the D50M, and the view range getting nerfed. Obviously, the reactive armor being removed is honestly the big thing that makes D50M probably less scary now, is that it having reactive armor allowed you to push into heavies or into other mediums, and just like other mediums would struggle to pen you. Even if they'd pen you, they'd struggle with reactive armor. Heavies, they could pen you, but again, you'd have a pretty high hit point pool with the reactive armor, and the DPM combined with the penetration made it that you were able to cut through heavies. You could 1v1 a bunch of like heavies. I think you could probably argue that the E50M could handle 1v1 versus half the heavies in the game. It lost only to like what 215B and maybe a couple other tanks. The CS is getting buffed. I think the tank is nice, but it's kind of weird, very difficult to play because the gun is quite trollish and the penetration is not the best. So engine power buff, so it's a bit more nimble. The speed getting increased by 2 kilometers an hour. I guess, yeah, cool. Concealment is getting buffed. That's a pretty cool thing. Allows it to be more snipey. The aim time getting buffed, more snipey. HP getting nerfed by 50, not a big deal. Again, it's a medium that kind of wasn't meant to be tanking shells. Now the shell speed is getting nerfed for the AP. Down to 800, so that makes it less a bit able to snipe. And the gold shell, I guess, is APCR, so they wanted to make it more special, buffing it to 1.3k. Cool. Like, I don't know what you're supposed to do with that. It's a tank that's kind of supposed to snipe, but you can't really snipe because they're having such a crappy shell speed. T62A, which is a tank which is alright, but I don't really like to play it. Shell reload time getting buffed. Shell dispersion getting buffed. Engine power getting buffed. Armor and hull improved. That's nice because it was supposed to be kind of armored, but it wasn't really. And view range is getting nerfed. Objects, a tank I like a lot, but which is very inconsistent. It used to be honestly one of my favorite tanks, and now it's not really. It's just a tank I enjoy playing once in a while. The max speed getting buffed by 4 kilometers an hour is significant. That makes it as fast as a lot of light tanks and faster than most mediums. It's already very nimble. Engine power getting buffed also, so it's going to accelerate even faster than it does now. And the 20 horsepower per ton is not very indicative of how it accelerates because it has very good soft stats. It does very well at moving around, and but like this 1 horsepower per ton buff is, I think, very good. Armor and turret improved. That's nice. I need to see how that looks because currently the 140 has 7 degrees of gun depression, which make I think 6 or 7. Not a joke here. But yeah, I think it has 7 degrees of gun depression, but I'm not sure. Even if it has 6. The armor on its turret is kind of a problem because even though they nerfed the armor on the hull and that doesn't matter too much, I don't mind because it's just a DPM tank, like kind of a leopard. The turret armor being so bad is extremely annoying, and the view range is getting nerfed, but it still has decent view range. So about the T22, basically gun handling buff to aim time, shot dispersion, engine power getting nerfed, so it's a bit less nimble. View range getting nerfed. I think that doesn't change much for the T22, just makes the gun a bit more comfortable. M60, increased turret rotation speed, armor and turret improved, armor and the hull weakened. The hull was kind of over buffed, to be honest. I think it was buffed and it was a bit too good. Again, M60 getting hit pretty hard with the shell speed changes. 850, 800, 720 is abysmal. So I guess they want the M60 to be kind of a brawl medium tank. View range getting nerfed, but still very good, 265. Pattern, again, buffing shot dispersion, aim time buff. Shell speed remaining quite high, changing to AP to APCR to be consistent with what they want to do. Removing reactive armor. I didn't see that many patterns, so I don't really know if the tank was good. I think it was pretty good because some good players really enjoyed playing it, but not really my kind of tank. It wasn't really played in tournaments, but I guess they didn't want it to be meta. Because like it had pretty good view range and it's still going to have one of the best view range among mediums, and it would have been probably playable with being one of the last mediums with reactive armor. FV4202, yeah, the non-hash gun is getting a buff, which might make it interesting, I guess. It really depends on that first thing, which is armor and turret improved, because the FE4202 is a tank which has pretty troll hull. But the problem is the turret is kind of paper, or at least it's trollish, but not enough. If you're against someone that knows what they're doing and shooting gold, or if you're on flat ground, you're going to get penned, and that's a problem. The tank could be quite good if the turret was improved, so we'll see how that goes. View range getting nerfed a bit, that's fine. And the hash gun is getting a significant nerf to the speed of its shells, which is, again, annoying. I don't think it needs that. The shells are already slow enough. And you can't really play also the... how's that called? You can't really play the supercharger with FE402 because their gun handling is not great. Progetto, garbage tank, at least in my opinion. Getting nerfed from the view range, hit point nerfed, aim time buff, engine power buff, better turret rotation dispersion, why not? Cool. Still irrelevant tank in my opinion. Object 907, one of my favorites, but I didn't really enjoy it once they rebalanced it last time. After they rebalanced it last time. Better turret rotation dispersion, that's nice. The 907 has great accuracy, but dispersion on a turret was horrendous. Main shell pen getting buffed, that's good, because it's a sniping tank. The shell speed is getting buffed significantly from 1k to 1.4 on the standards, because the standards are changing from AP to APCR, and that makes it much more able to snipe. One of the problems of the 907 is that, besides the fact that it doesn't have great DPM, is it had like bad shell velocity, so you had to take the like improved gunpowder or something like that improves the shell velocity of your shells, or you had to take supercharger, either one of the two, and now you won't need to do that. Hull rotation getting nerfed, I don't think that's a big problem. It already turns fast enough, and view range nerf, who cares? Caro, also one of my favorites, which I don't really play currently. Armor and turret improved, need to see how that looks like. Shell speed getting nerfed a little bit. Buff on the APCR, I guess, which is a premium. Again, another tank which plays kind of close combat, but like again, is the shell speed nerf really necessary? Isn't like 1k on AP good enough? Like some tanks and turret have like 1k on the AP shell velocity. Why do we need to have such low shell velocity on the APs? You can make a difference between APCR and AP without making it so bad. Like you can have 1k on AP and 1.4 or 1.5 on APCR, and that's like a 33%, like a 50% improvement on the 1k AP, which would be the standard. We don't need to have like that much of a big difference. Reload time buff to compensate for the alpha nerf. Between shells is a bit, the entry clip's a bit lower, the view range is getting nerfed. I think overall the tank is getting nerfed, honestly. It depends how good the armor in the turret is, but I don't think it's going to be good enough to compensate. STB, which used to be very good and has been quite crap for a year. It's getting buff in the dispersion department. Hull rotation speed getting nerfed. Shell speed getting nerfed. And range getting nerfed. So it's going to be like it's so bad. Like this thing is, yeah, whatever. It's forgotten by Wargaming. I don't understand why they'd make it so bad. Like the tank is already bad. Why do you want to make it worse so it's even less popular? You barely see any STBs right now. KPZ 50T, interesting tank, which they're seemingly buffing. Buff to mobility, buff to hit points, buff to the aim time, which is nice. Hull dispersion movement is nice, so it's going to be probably nicer to play with, but the shell speed is getting nuked. So again, you're going to have to play close range. People seemingly unsure whether that's a good or bad thing. I think it's good that it's getting buffed, but again, I I can't fathom why you'd make the AP so bad. 1-2-1 tank, which is pretty good but underplayed, I think. Better alpha, much better aim time, very good aim time actually compared to other tanks, I guess. Engine power getting buffed slightly. Their reload time getting nerfed pretty significantly, probably to compensate enough for the alpha damage buff. Shell speed getting absolutely wrecked. So again, probably gonna have to play a bit more close range. It's gonna be uncomfortable sniping. The view range getting nerfed, and the worst turret rotation dispersion. So that probably compensates for the aim time buff you're getting. 1-2-1, which is one medium, which is kind of overlooked right now. It's the issue with the 1-2-1 is you can't shoot on the move, and it feels really bad. But the tank has a lot going for it. Namely, the alpha, which is already 420, is going to go up to 440. Armor in the turret and the hull improved. I'd like to see how that looks. The armor in the turret and the hull is already like okay. Reload speed is getting nerfed, I guess, to compensate for the alpha buff. Shell speed is getting nerfed, but not very significantly. The shell speed is already disgusting on a 1-2-1. And the view range is getting nerfed. The 1-2-1 notably has reactive armor, tungsten, and I think that's it. But I could be wrong. It might have some other perks, which I'm not aware of. Hello? Yeah, it has reactive armor, tungsten. So it's already like, it has potential tournament-wise. I'm not sure. It has never been playable in tournaments, but reactive armor is a sought-after commodity. TVP is getting an alpha buff, a reload buff, an intraclip buff, but shell nerf from 4 to 3. So it's effectively going to be, I think, the old batchat gun, kind of. And the shell speed is getting, again, obliterated, so you need to play close range. It's going to be pretty bad to play long range with this tank. Again, no comments regarding that. Cool. I think people quite dislike the changes, and that is because of the shell speed, I would assume. Leopard, getting an alpha buff, a reload time slight nerf. Main shell from AP to APCR. Okay, so they want to keep the shell speed on the Leopard, which is a sniping medium tank, I understand. 1.6k is very high, base. If it's, I think, I'm not sure, but Leopard might still have the, what consumables does it have? It still has that thing, reciprocal calibration, and does it have, oh yeah, it still has improved gunpowder, so you might have like insane shell speed if you run both supercharger and gunpowder. And the view range is getting nerfed a bit, but still pretty high for a medium tank. 30B, yeah, buff to the max speed, reload time improvement, armor and turret improved, thank god. Still have a massive tumor on top of the tank, which kind of negates the armor in the turret unless they improve that also. View range nerf, yeah. Shell speed getting destroyed again. And isn't the gold on the AMX30B heat? So the heat has better shell velocity than AP? Seems weird. It needs the buff, so I think that's good, but again, shell speed nerf, cool. Light tanks, Vickers, max speed improvement, that's good. Engine power improvement, that's good. It needs it. Gun depression improvement, sure, why not? Armor and turret improved. Need to see how that looks again. Because if it's like the old Vickers, then it's like basically STB diet. It's not good armor, but since the tank is mobile enough and has good gun depression, it makes it so that it's kind of annoying to hit consistently. And view range is getting buffed also, so it might be pretty good to spot. Vickers is one of those light tanks which has like very good potential, but is insanely inconsistent because the alpha is so low that if the meta doesn't suit the Vickers being able to shoot hash, then the tank is basically useless. RHM, which is my favorite light tank, is getting buffed, which I really appreciate. The view range is going to get buffed to 280, which is going to make it, I think, the best view range in the game, which was previously the WZ 132-1. So now it's going to be a great scout. It'll keep in mind it has reactive and speed boost and tungsten and reticle calibration and adrenaline by default, I guess. So it's one of those tanks which you can I guess suit. You can play however you want it, basically. But having that view range combined to, I guess, speed boost can make you able to spot some crossings extremely early, which might be interesting. Alpha damage is getting buffed to 340, which makes this tank, I think, nice. It's already like to play, but it's admittedly not insanely strong. It's just useful in some situations. But the alpha buff is interesting because 330 felt a bit low. 340 feels closer to what most mediums have, and a 450 HE is interesting because that's like a big HE damage, especially if you're running tungsten. You can actually slap pretty hard on other light tanks or lightly armored tanks. And it's getting a reload time buff, so if you want, you can go and run a damage setup with tungsten and adrenaline, and it might be able to pump out some serious DPM for a light tank. And the main shell plan is getting buffed slightly. I think we can all appreciate that because the penetration was a bit of an issue sometimes. WZ 132-1 getting nerfed on the view range department. Still a tank I don't like to play, even though it's interesting. I've tried to make it work in the past, but I don't appreciate the tank too much, even though it has some potential. T100, the fan favorite, tournament favorite, pub's favorite tank, is getting nerfed. Deservedly so. The view range is getting buffed, so it's a bit more in the lighting territory, so that follows what Wargaming was saying. The gold shell is getting buffed because, yeah, I guess it needed it. I don't really mind that buff. I'm not sure I needed it, to be honest. Reload time is getting nerfed. I think that's to address the DPM issue that this tank has. It has too much DPM for a light tank. It's like a much better damage dealer than the other light tanks. So I think it's reasonable to nerf it. The whole rotation's getting nerfed also, and the worse turret rotation dispersion makes it a bit less nice shooting on the move. Overall, I think a T100 nerf. It's better at fulfilling the light tank role as it's getting the view range buff, but I think the RHM will be better at that, in my opinion. Keep in mind, the T100 was mostly played because it was a good damage dealing light tank, and the profile makes it able to side hug and to be very sneaky compared to other light tanks, and that's really what you want in tournaments and even in randoms, to be honest. The Sheridan, I don't really get what they're going for. Tungsten around, so it has more damage on the AP. They nerfing the whatever, and shell reload is getting worse. So yeah, cool. Make the Sheridan worse. I don't like that tank. Nerf that tank into the ground. I hate it. I don't like to play it. I don't like to play against it. Honestly, the Sheridan is basically the equivalent of a 183 for me in light tanks. It's that kind of tank where it's like some 45% is going to take it, drive to the middle of the map, dump a big shell into you and die, or do that like he's going to dump one, back off, half-life, peek again, die and get the second one into you, and then that's it, you've lost 1k, or he's going to drive across the map and just dunks like 500 or like 600 into you and he's happy, but he's trying to ruin your life. I hate this tank. I don't like to play it. I don't like to play against it. But overall, it's a pretty bad tank, and it being nerfed doesn't make too much sense unless you consider that it's toxic, like I do, I guess. Batchat. Well, it used to be one of my favorite tanks, but I've kind of ruined it. Furin's is getting buffed, so considering you have vents, it's going to be close to the best view range in the game also with lights. The whole rotation's getting a slight nerf, doesn't really matter. The 100mm gun is going to get better shell speed, lower alpha, better intraclip, and better reload time. So I think the DPM mostly remains the same, but it has a bit less clip potential. And I think it's going to be worse to play with from a comfortable. It's going to be less comfortable to play with because we're going to have APCR at standard, and if you have like bad pen already, then APCR is abysmal to shoot at on heavy tanks at least. And you're not going to be able to snipe because you're going to be stuck with APCR losing a lot of pen. It's going to have already bad pen on standard, and then when you're going to want to shoot gold, which is going to be heat now, at least you're going to get a bit more pen from the how's it called? You're getting a bit more pen from the what's the equipment name? From the calibrated shells because it's heat, but it's like the shell velocity is bad, so you're not going to hit a lot of shots. Yeah, they're kind of ruining the bat shot. And the 105mm gun is going to get, I guess this means shell type APCR AP, they're talking about standard. The reload's getting buffed, the shell interclip is getting nerfed, and the shell speed is getting mega nerfed from 1.5k to 900, so you're not going to be sniping anymore with the bat shot, or it's going to be very annoying to snipe with. Honestly, this change is so dumb. And the alpha damage is getting nerfed, so they're, like, overall making this tank. So this is going to be closer to the old 105mm from the bat shot, which had like a lower reload and lower alpha. That gun was nice like 3-4 years ago. I don't think in the current meta that's very nice to have 330 times 3 with 3 seconds between shells. So you can't snipe, or not very effectively, because you've got garbage shell velocity, so you have to play close, and you're not dumping as much damage as you want to. Cool. Tank destroyers, the GFT, which is currently okay, but still getting nerfed somewhat significantly because they're nerfing the camera pretty badly, nerfing the dispersion pretty badly. HP getting nerfed a bit. Shell speed, not a significant change, slight buff, but it doesn't change shit. Aim time getting buffed. Okay. Hori, interestingly, probably one of the most problematic tanks right now. Not for randoms, but for tournaments, I would say, because the Hori has reactive armor, and it has insane gold pen, and it has good camo because it's a TD. You just load gold and auto pen most of the heavy tanks, so like nerfing the shell speed lightly like that might. I think people are not unhappy because the Hori is getting nerfed. Or actually, like, what I want to say is people aren't unhappy because the Hori is not getting nerfed. They are unhappy because the shell speed is getting changed. But the real problem with the Hori, I think, is that it just auto-pens heavy tanks, and that is not a good feature to have with a tank which has reactive, especially if there's not a good heavy tank to counter it. It might be toxic. I'm not sure, but it might not be good. Minotaur, bad tank design. This tank is annoying to play against, and it's like horrendously bad to play like with. It's boring. From APCR to AP, so that's a buff, and armor and turret improved. Cool. Make the tank more cancerous. Thank you. XM66F. That tank I think is pretty strong, but I don't like to play. But from what I remember, it's annoying to play against, and it has very good DPM. APCR to AP, so that's a buff. Armor and turret improved, that's a buff. I'm not sure I needed that. And the shell speed is getting nerfed, so that's good. But the fact is you don't play at range with the XM. I think the gun handling, from what I remember, was annoying. So like it was difficult to play with at range. So the fact that they're nerfing it doesn't mean much anyway, because you shouldn't be playing at range with this tank. T1 10E3, hull rotation buff, so you can't circle it so easily. Armor and hull improved. I wonder what that means. If that means the already non-penable parts are going to be even less non-penable, or less penable, I should say. Or does it mean that they're going to buff the lower plate and then it's going to be like horrible to play against? That's mainly a problem for random because I don't think this tank is playable in tournaments. The shell speed is getting buffed for the gold and not changed for the AP, remains more or less the same basically. And the main shell pen is getting nerfed. Yeah, depends on the armor changes, I guess. 268 V4 alpha damage buff. Yeah. Shot dispersion buff. Aim time buff. Shell speed buff, but it doesn't matter too much. Better turret rotation dispersion buff. Main shell type APCR to AP, that's a buff. HE shell pen from 52 to 60, that's a buff. Worst shot dispersion on the whole movement rotation, that's a nerf. That kind of compensates for the previous buff regarding the turret rotation dispersion. Reload time, nerf. I think this tank is bad because the armor works if you're pointing frontally, but a lot of tanks can just pen you anyway in the cupola or just by loading gold. And if you just turn lightly to one side or the other, you're gonna get penned. And it also gets tracked. Still, I don't think this tank is going to be any more relevant. 263, fun tank, better gun movement speed. That's nice. So you won't need to wait so long when you're moving like 2 degrees to the left, 2 degrees to the right. But speaking of that, they're buffing the yaw limit, the 12/12s to make it a bit more comfortable. That's nice. Power to weight buff, so it's not as sluggish because it's kind of slow right now, I think, compared to what it used to be. Terrain resistance, I'm not sure that's a buff or that's a nerf, to be honest, increasing them. Max speed forwards from 50 to 48, so a bit slower. No, Oscar, there are no new tanks. I'm just speaking about the nerfs and the buffs of the upcoming patch. The E4 is getting an engine power buff. Sure, the tank is fine right now, but not very good either. It's cool, I guess. And the shell speed is finally going to be 1.4k because it has standard APCR, I believe. And that makes it maybe a bit better at sniping, not that you want to snipe too much with the E4. Badger from APCR to AP to keep this plus minus same shell velocity, which is going to be bad anyway, but you're not sniping too much with the Badger anyway. Better hold movement rotation dispersion and better gun movement dispersion, so it's going to be a bit nicer, I guess, to like turn and shoot with the Badger. 268 is getting terrain resistance change. Again, I don't know whether that's good or bad. Reload speed is getting buffed, engine power is getting buffed, and the alpha damage is getting nerfed. I think the alpha bit being nerfed is like not very relevant. It was very nice at 690. It was already at 670 before, and it was already playable at 670 before, I think, in randoms. It's not the best random tank to win games, but I recall having like very good average at some point of the 268. And Wargaming buffing the engine power makes it turn on itself faster, so it's going to be hard to circle. I think it's already pretty hard to circle right now, if I'm not mistaken. The WoT is getting a hit points buff. I don't have the tank. Most people don't have the tank. The tank is basically a 405 right now. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Yak Panzer is getting hull movement dispersion buff, gun movement dispersion buff, engine power buff, but it's still abysmal. Shot dispersion nerf, remove tungsten shell consumable, so it's going to have flat 800 now. Aim time nerf. So what they want you to do with the Yak Panzer is just be closer to the brawl, and it's an assault TD. They don't want you to snipe with it. They want you to get close and shoot people in the head. People are very unhappy about their big alpha tank being nerfed. But I guess the Yak Panzer is already garbage, so that's understandable. Grill 15 is getting, I think, buffed. The shell speed is being changed from, it's getting plus 100 shell speed on the AP, which is changing from AP to APCR, actually. So that's going to make it a bit frustrating sometimes to play, having APCR as standard. Yaw limit is going to increase, so it's going to be a bit more flexible. Especially because it's having more gun depression, which is 5 in the front to 6 in the front, and I'm not sure whether they'll change the gun depression on the sides, which is how you're supposed to use the Grella. If you're wanting to shoot at the tanks below you, just turn your tank and shoot on the side. You get like 8 degrees, I would say, something like that, maybe a bit less, maybe 7. And the aim time is getting decreased, that's good. The shell pen is getting changed, doesn't matter too much. And the worst rotation dispersion, yeah, make it worse, whatever you want. It's already garbage, doesn't matter. You need to be immobile with the grill if you want to do anything. EV405 is getting completely rebalanced. I think some people will like it, some people will dislike it. I don't really have that much of an opinion on it. I think it's a bit weird. The aim time is getting buffed, sorry. It's getting decreased. The engine power is getting buffed. The gun caliber is getting changed to 123 to 150, so you might be able to overmatch more things, but I don't think most people in Blitz realize that anyway. Reload speed is getting buffed. The alpha is getting changed to 650, and you'll only have 2 shells instead of 4. So that means you have 1.3k clip in 2 shells with a 4 seconds intra clip. You'll have APCR as standard, heat as gold. The standard shell speed is going to be 1.3k because it's APCR. The shell pen is getting nerfed for the gold rounds, but it's fine because it's heats now, so you get more increase with the calibrated shells compared to the APCR, which it used to have. And they removed the shell reload boost consumable, which means you're going to have 4 seconds whatever happens between the 2 shells. I think that makes the EV405 maybe better against like opportunities where you can't dump the clip, but you can only give 1 shell, and now you get better alpha to give that 1 shell. And if you have like a big opportunity, then you just dump 1.3k into them. The hit points is getting nerfed by 50, whatever. I'm not sure about this change. I think it doesn't impact the game too much. The EV405 is one of those tanks that was very good at doing damage, but was very situational. It's still going to be that kind of tank, I think. EV4 215V183 getting view range nerf. Yeah, nerf that tank. Yeah. The Chieftain is getting the turn resistant changed. I'm not sure that's a buff or a nerf, as I said previously. HP is getting increased by 50, doesn't matter too much. Reload speed is getting buffed, sorry. And the aim time is getting buffed also. Armor and turret improved. We need to see how that looks. And the shell speed is getting mega nerfed from 1.3k on both AP and gold to 800 on both ish. And that makes it more frustrating to play at range. Again, I'd wager like 800 is too low, and they should have 1k for most tank instead of 800, which is like horrible to play. Rhino they're changing the equipment to what the Time 71 has. Improved vertical stabilizers. That I think means your tank has more gun depression and elevation. So that means your Rhino could be having like 9 or 10 of gun depression, which makes it very capable on ridge lines. And they're adjusting the gun depression from 17.7 to 14.7, so they make the gun elevation worse. Yeah, okay. And the other equipment you're getting as a choice is improved suspension. Improved suspension makes your tank ground resistances, I think, better, so that your tank is more mobile. The loss of camo net doesn't impact the tank. Improved optics didn't impact the tank that much. You're not spotting too much of the tank. Improved suspension makes the tank very mobile, I think, because the tank was already kind of nimble. So now it's going to be... I think you should pick improved suspension with this tank any day of the week, because, yeah, having depression is nice. It's comfortable. But 7 is already usually good enough. And it feels like it has more than 7 right now. I don't know why it does. It feels like it has more than 7. It's weird. Anyway, if it keeps the same gun depression feeling as right now, I think improved suspension is the way to go, because you'll be much faster, at least significantly faster, or noticeably, so you can actually play with mediums more effectively, and you're going to be a menace to medium tanks. Reload time is getting nerfed a little bit, and turret rotation speed is getting nerfed, so that's going to make it a bit more difficult to track the targets, I guess. The F3, which is the main issue in tournaments and quite oppressive in randoms too, to be honest, if you're facing a lot of them. They're removing a reactive armor and a sandbag, so it's going to be less tanky. It's just going to be disgusting armor-wise. But you're going to be able to kill it more easily right now if you flank it, because it will have no reactive armor, less HP, but it's still going to be able to clip you. So I think this tank is still going to be like really frustrating to play against, somewhat in randoms, because I feel like in randoms reactive armor it doesn't have that much of an impact on the sandbags either. And it's just mainly people in randoms cannot aim very well, so they just bounce off of you. So I wish they nerfed the armor a little bit. I wish this tank was bad. I don't like that kind of tank being meta, because it's like it's fast enough to contest medium flanks. It's fast enough to compete with most of the other heavies. It has a lot of hit points. It had reactive armor, which allowed it to be very tanky against groups of tanks, and you could push and tank a lot of shells. Especially considering the fact that you have extremely trollish armor, which you will be more tanky than a mouse in a lot of scenarios with this tank. And it has a clip, so if you're getting pushed, you just dump people for 1.5k or 1.2k, and they haven't, like, this tank is not very good for the game, honestly. Mouse is getting a shell speed change, not very interesting. Armor in the turret improved. We need to see how that looks. I hope that's the cheeks getting improved, so it's not as easy to pen. The hit points are getting buffed by 50 to 2.9k, and a worse whole movement rotation dispersion. I think overall that's enough, unless the armor in the turret improvement makes it so that you cannot pen the cheeks. E6 is getting armor in the turret weakened. I wonder what that means. I wonder if that's the hatch, which was overbuffed, or if that's actually the turret. If that's the hatch, yeah, sure, deserved. The E6 is probably one of the best heaviums right now. It has been for like a year, and it was already good without the hatch being really hard to pen. So I think it's only fair that this tank gets a small nerf. It's not that big, and people are kind of split actually on that. I think a lot of people like this tank, and a lot of people think this tank is too good, which it kind of is. I'm in both sides, both camps. VZ55, aim time, buff, added gear oil provision, so it's going to be a bit faster. Reload speeds for the clip, I assume. What, only has a clip in this game? I think so. Nerf, and between shells is going to be a bit lower. So it's going to be maybe a bit more playable, but still not a tank I like to play. The concept is going to be terrain resistance change. I don't know what that means. Shot dispersion, nerfed from APCL to AP, so the gun handling, the ability to pen armor is going to be a bit increased. Reload speed is going to be changed because it's going to be a clip now. The shell speed is still going to be horrible. And it's going to be a clip. I don't know if it's going to be an auto-reloaded or a clip, actually. It's not clear. Or they haven't given us that information. I don't know whether that's a good or bad change. I didn't really like to play the concept, but I think it would have been better as a single shot. Yeah, it's going to resemble a bit more the Grandwagen playstyle, I guess. I don't know. Type is getting a hit point buff and a name time buff, reduced armor for middle frontal section. The type wasn't that broken. It didn't need to be nerfed that much, I don't think. It's already not very played. But yeah, the armor is kind of strong frontally, but I think if you nerf it too much, it's just going to be paper. 113 hit point buff, alpha damage buff, and reload speed nerf. I think that's to compensate for the. Okay, so they're basically not changing this tank. Yeah. M4, which was one of the meta tanks before the 116 came out, also a premium or reward collector tank, whatever you call it. Shell speed, pretty much untouched, still bad. Gun handling is still bad. Engine power nerfed, well, not buffed actually, but not significantly. So it's just going to stay a pretty nimble tank, I assume. Main shell type from APCR to AP, cool. And removed reactive armor consumable, so it's not as tanky. Yeah. It tracks. Grandwagen, shell speed nerf, from APR to AP, hit point buff, shot dispersion nerf, aim time nerf. So this tank is getting quite, I would say quite a bad nerf. This tank is, it's good in ranked, I think. And when I say it's good, I mean it's good if you're a good player. If you're an average player, this tank is not very good. And even if you're a good player, it's not my honestly favorite tank to play because it's kind of sluggish, and the playstyle is just like boring. I don't think it deserved that much of a change. I think they should actually buff it. It would be more interesting if it was buffed, or at least reworked a bit and not changed like in that way. E5, one of the most comfortable tanks to play, I find. Buff by hit points, hull speed is getting, so it's less of a boat now, it turns a bit more nicely. Reload time is getting buffed, aim time is getting nerfed a bit. Cool, the gun is already very good right now, so if they nerf a bit, that's not a problem by me. Shot dispersion is getting nerfed a bit. And shell speed is getting nerfed significantly though, so significantly is like 200 meters, but it's noticeable. I'm not sure they needed to do that, to be honest. Yeah, they're not really touching this tank much, all things considered. The IS-4 is getting, I think, a significant change actually. A lot of different armor improvement in the hull and inventory. I saw a picture in discussion. We can check it out afterwards, or actually, maybe we can check it out now. Yeah. So it's getting a pretty big change. I think that's an IS-4, looking at the IS-4 with standard rounds. So before it was like easy pen, but now you're gonna need to shoot gold, or if it's side scraping properly. If it's on flat, then you can still shoot the lower plate. But if it's side scraping properly, you're going to need to load gold. And that might be, I think that's a nice change. Back to the IS-4, where is it? Shell pen is getting buffed, back to 340 heats, which is nice to pen tanks. Reload is getting nerfed a bit. The HP is getting buffed by 200, and that's a lot. And 2650 HP is very nice. The engine power is getting nerfed quite significantly, but it still have the super speed boost, I think, so it's still going to be pretty fast to get around for a tank with that amount of hit points and a decent armor profile now. Max speed forward is getting nerfed, and the aim time is getting nerfed. A lot of different... Okay, so that's basically reverting back to the old IS-4 playstyle, which was more of a... not a nimble tank, but more of a... not sluggish either, but kind of like a fast or medium speed-ish like heavy tank. It's like default heavy tank, like very vanilla playstyle. I7 turn resistance change, I again don't know what that means. I guess I would assume that's a nerf, to be honest, but I don't know what it means. Aim time is getting buffed, that's cool because it's horrendous, but it doesn't change much overall. It's getting engine power nerf, it's already sluggish, yeah. Whereas hull, movement, rotation, dispersion, that compensates for the aim time, so it's still going to be the same. I7U now. 60 TP, shell speeds, basically no changes. Terrain resistances, again, I don't know what that means. Main shell type from APR to AP, basically no changes. 114 SP2, plus 3 kilometers per hour, aim time buff. Slight buff, not really big change. No, I don't own this tank, most people don't own it. I don't think that's a great tank either, but I could be wrong. D100, slight buff to the engine power. Max speed backwards 12. That's 12 is pretty painful backwards. 15 is already not great, but 12 is pretty painful. Pretty painful. Dispersion is going to be buffed a bit for the 128. Reload is going to be buffed. Aim time is getting buffed, so the 128 might be pretty comfortable. 150 is getting buffed. Actually, no, it's not buffed, just a rework. Probably same DPM overall. Yeah, cool. If you like the 100, it doesn't really matter too much. I think maybe you switch to 128. 215B, one of my favorite rare heavy tanks and one of the favorites of the most super unicums, is getting buffed. I think that's a very difficult tank to play for in like average to below average player, but it's getting it's very good for good players. The gun reload speed is getting buffed, so it's going to have very good DPM, very good. It has already very good hash, so that's going to make this tank very quite monstrous, I would say, with the DPM on a heavy tank combined to the gun handling. Hit points being buffed means it's nice. It's not that much, to be honest, but the whole in arm and turret armor improvement I need to see to know what it actually means. Honestly, the tank is already very good for a very good player, so I think Unikims will do even better with this tank than they're doing right now, in randoms at least, and it might be Clan of War playable, tournament playable. Again. STRVK. They're changing that. I think it's pretty much no changes pretty much for the STRVK. Yo, engine power changed slightly for the 105. Better gun dispersion after shot and turret rotation. Aim time from 4.8 to 4.1. So a buff. Yeah. Cool. 777. 777, yeah. Added 10 max provision, so a little bit of HP, AP shot to AP, and the gun shell speed doesn't change. So basically no changes for this guy either. No significant changes at least. 72k, penetration buff, and better hull rotation dispersion. Slight buff, I guess. Not very relevant either. This tank is, I used to like it a lot before it was nerfed significantly, and I think now it's alright, I guess, if you want to play it. It's kind of like an E100. 260 main shell type from AP to AP, better turret rotation dispersion, yeah. Cool, so that's a buff on that. Buff with the shell type going to AP, turret rotation speed is getting buffed. The better turret armor, that we need to see what that looks like. Aim time is getting buffed, and main shell type 260 from 256. I guess that's to compensate from AP to AP. This tank is, I think, like a niche tank. Some people like it, some people don't like it, some people don't care about it. I personally don't care about it, but I think it's nice for people that like it. It's getting buffed. BZ, basically a relevant tank because it's basically a fun tank. It's like, why would you play this tank with a small gun if you can play like another tank like IS-7, IS-4, like the 777? Why would you play this tank? So you play it for the big gun because it's a troll gun, it's funny, and that's it. It needs to be, they need to give it something that makes it unique or useful in some way, because right now it's just like a bland tank copying traits of other tanks. They're buffing the 130 millimeter by diminishing the reload time, giving it slightly better in time, but it's like compensating by the worst turret rotation dispersion. Like, useless, dude. T57. T15's biggest problem right now is the gun handling, which is horrible. And I have no idea why they're nerfing the engine power. This tank is not good right now. They're nerfing the alpha damage. They're giving it a better reload and better shell entry clip by 0.1 seconds, which is not, we won't feel that, and they're nerfing the shell speed. So it's overall a nerf for the 57. I think they're probably keeping the DPM about the same, but making it have less clip potential, a bit more like slow, and having like worse ability to clip at range. It's already like bad at that. It's like you're not solving any issues this tank has, and it's not good right now. 5A, that's a slight buff. Aim time buff, dispersion on the move, better, whatever buff. Shot dispersion buff, shell speed pretty much the same. This tank needs a buff. It's not great right now either, but I won't downvote this because I don't really care about this thing too much. It's i7 copy-ish kind of tank. 50B, my beloved 50B, max force speed, slight buff, decrease on reverse slightly. Alpha damage is getting significant buff, and we're going back to a 3-shell gun. Hull rotation is getting a slight nerf, but we're getting a rotation and movement dispersion buff, which is very nice because one of the big problems of the 50B is that you need to aim forever to hit your shells, and it's frustrating because you need to focus all your equipments on having better aim, because otherwise your tank doesn't hit like anything, or it doesn't hit enough. And the reload speed is getting buffed a bit because obviously you're having less shells in the clip, and the intro clip is going to 2.5. Remember, the 50B still has reactive armor, but the armor is still kind of bad. They haven't given the armor it used to have on the whole back, so it's going to be closer to what the old 50B was like, but it's probably not going to be as nimble, and it's not going to have the same armor, but in exchange you have reactive armor. We'll see if that compensates when you can be shot from shot by HE from everywhere. And the AA5A Phase 1, which is a tier 9, they added emergency track. Yeah. And they're asking your first impression on the changes. I don't like most of the changes if you think that a lot of the changes are actually making the ground resistances, I think, worse, and the shell velocity like way too much, like way worse, for no reason whatsoever. And most people are neutral, not good. I think it's like, yeah, nice distribution. But I would say Wargaming really need to think about some changes. I like the 50B change. I like this T57 change is dumb. 7 BZ75 still gonna be forgotten tank, useless tank, whatever, hipster tank. Okay, whatever, no changes, whatever. Nice buff for people that like to play the tank. Might be overbuffed, to be honest. Yeah, whatever. Nice, interesting change. Okay. Whatever, I guess. Whatever, yeah, that's nice. I guess we won't have to see this thing again, hopefully. Whatever. Okay. Weird. Cool. Yeah, that's nice. Need to see. Cool. Interesting. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. This is weird. This is okay. This is like, why would you do that? Weird again. Whatever. 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 Okay. Whatever. But it's like 5,000 like characters, but it's still whatever, because this tank is just wow, cool. We need to see what that looks like. This is okay. This is honestly, I hate this tank. Whatever. This is scary. Kind of curious about that, how it's going to turn out. This is why would you do that, but it doesn't matter too much, to be honest, anyway. The batch chat changes, no. Why would you do that? Yeah, please keep nerfing this tank. I hate this tank. This is good. This is, doesn't matter, whatever. This is, yeah, thank you very much for buffing my favorite tank. And he did it, and I like it. And this is, again, nice, but we'll see how much it changes. This is whatever, I guess. Why would you do that? But yeah, this is good overall, I guess. This is, again, just a weird change. I think this is, again, to address the Clippers, but it's like, why would you address the TVP, dude? It's like not a great tank right now. 1-2, WZ 1-2-1, sure. 1-2-1B, sure. KPZ, sure, but again, not talking about the shell speed changes, which are dumb, obviously. This is like, again, such a mind-boggling nerf. Caro, need to see, but probably a nerf. This is cool. This is, yeah, whatever. This is need to see, whatever. We probably need to see with the armor changes. Pattern, cool. 60, cool. T22, cool. Object 140, nice buff. Interesting buff. Same for the T68 CS, interesting, but again, the shell velocity, whatever, dude. What are you doing? E50M needed that nerf. Murat, whatever, tank, inline, whatever. I don't know how to sum up. People are spamming the chat. A lot of messages. I don't know if they're showing like interesting things. Or is it? Yeah, people are kind of like speculating on what the tanks will be looking like, I think. I'm not even sure like if most of these screenshots are yeah, by the way, the S-Conk wasn't addressed, so the S-Conk still has its reactive armor, which might be a problem for a tournament at least. If that's a real chieftain buff, it might be interesting because the chieftain being not penetratable unless you hit the cupola, you still have that massive cupola on top, which is a problem, but at least you're not getting like instant gold, instant snapshot into your head. Like this is at range at least. Uh, yeah. So basically, the Griffin is basically the same tank as the concept now because the concept will have 2 shells. Cool. Uh, People obviously very passionate about this, as am I guess. But I can't believe that armor models are out, to be honest. Wait, can we like? I don't believe they are, unless I am missing something. No, I don't think so. Maybe in this development mode. What is this here? Tankopedia. No, this is definitely not up to date. Okay. Okay, so that's it for this quick review. At least I did as quick as I could. Probably still took a fair amount of time to review all of those. Hopefully the tanks will be adjusted. Because some changes are like incomprehensible, and a lot of other changes are all right at best. Yeah, Cora, I kind of agree with Cora saying that we need to stop balancing types by giving them an APCR. I think it's like fine to give tanks APCR by stand, but it's not okay to make it to like just treat APCR as AP with better shell velocity, because AP should still have okay shell velocity and not horrendous shell velocity like they're doing right now. APCR should have better shell velocity, and it should have a bit better penetration to compensate for the fact that it has less normalization. Um, okay. Yeah, people are like, no, I mean the RHM needs a buff, dude. Like even I think I'm a pretty good, competent player on the RHM, and I even try harding, I can't get my win rate to be as good on the RHM as the T10 or some other like medium tanks. I think this tank deserves a buff, even if it seems to be quite potent already. Like honestly, some changes I can't understand why they thought it would be a good idea. They don't even seem logical. It's like they made up changes from like they pulled it from thin air and like they never played the game or something. Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. Hope that was of some good information for you. If you have any comments or would like to discuss, I am open to hear other people's opinion about those changes. And please, 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 please do give feedback to Wargaming. What kind of buff is this? Give feedback to Wargaming about what you think. Okay, see you guys around, hopefully. Bye bye.